Hey, it's Tucker Carlson. You often hear people say the news is full of lies, but most of the time that's not exactly right. Much of what you see on television or read the New York Times is in fact true in the literal sense. It could pass one of the media's own fact checks. Lawyers would be willing to sign off on it. In fact, they may have. But that doesn't make it true. It's not true. At the most basic level, the news you consume is a lie of the stealthiest and most insidious kind. Facts have been withheld on purpose, along with proportion and perspective. You are being manipulated. How does that work? Let's see. If I tell you that a man has been unjustly arrested for armed robbery, that is not, strictly speaking, a lie. He may have been framed. At this point, there's been no trial, so no one can really say. But if I don't mention the fact that the same man has been arrested for the same crime 6 times before, am I really informing you? No, I'm not. I'm misleading you. And that's what the news media are doing in every story that matters, every day of the week, every week of the year. What's it like to work in a system like that? After more than 30 years in the middle of it, we could tell you stories. The best you can hope for in the news business at this point is the freedom to tell the fullest truth that you can. But there are always limits. And you know that if you bump up against those limits often enough, you will be fired for it. That's not a guess, it's guaranteed. Every person who works in English language media understands that. The rule of what you can't say defines everything. It's filthy, really, and it's utterly corrupting. You can't have a free society if people aren't allowed to say what they think is true. Speech is the fundamental prerequisite for democracy. That's why it's enshrined in the first of our constitutional amendments. Amazingly, as of tonight, there aren't many platforms left that allow free speech. The last big one remaining in the world, the only one, is Twitter, where we are now. Twitter has long served as the place where our national conversation incubates and develops. Twitter is not a partisan site. Everybody's allowed here, and we think that's a good thing. And yet, for the most part, the news that you see analyzed on Twitter comes from media organizations that are themselves thinly disguised propaganda outlets. You see it on cable news, you talk about it on Twitter. The result may feel like a debate, but actually the gatekeepers are still in charge. We think that's a bad system. We know exactly how it works, and we're sick of it. Starting soon, we'll be bringing a new version of the show we've been doing for the last 6.5 years to Twitter. We'll be bringing some other things too, which we'll tell you about. But for now, we're just grateful to be here. Free speech is the main right that you have. Without it, you have no others. See you soon.
This is a video from Tucker Carlson announcing that he'll be moving his show from Fox to Twitter after he was taken off the air 2 weeks ago. This video really only scratches the surface of what's happening right now with Tucker, considering he also sent a letter to Fox accusing the network of fraud and breach of contract. In his letter, Tucker claims that Fox News lied to him and broke their promises on several occasions. He alleges that Fox executives, including Rupert Murdoch himself, who's named in the letter, made false representations to him that they later violated. He says that Fox agreed not to leak his private communications to the media, not to use them against him, not to settle with Dominion voting systems in a way that would imply his wrongdoing, and not to harm his reputation. But Tucker alleges that Fox did all of those things. He says that Fox leaked his private messages to several media outlets, suggesting that he was involved in the false claims that Dominion rigged the 2020 election. He says that Fox's PR chief tried to undermine his future business prospects by spreading negative stories about him to other media outlets. And perhaps most importantly, he claims that his firing was part of Fox's $787 million settlement with Dominion, which he says was agreed to between Fox's board and Dominion. Now, Tucker's position is that these actions constitute a breach of contract and a fraud, and as a result, he's considering suing Fox for damages and that he intends to subpoena their phone records and other documents to prove his case. He added that Fox has no right to enforce the non-compete clause in his contract, which would prevent him from working for or starting a competing media outlet until January 2025, citing this notion that the contract was already null and Fox breached it for the reasons that I listed previously. I should also note that if he breaks his non-compete clause, he would reportedly forego $25 million. And look, I get that that all is a lot of information, but it's important to remember who to root for here between Tucker and Fox News. No one. Absolutely no one at all. Now, as for this Twitter show that Tucker's announcing, it appears to be the start of some potential collaboration with Elon Musk, which only proves what we've all known all along, that Musk is working to turn Twitter into a right-wing disinformation machine, buttressed by the fact that all previously verified users have been unverified and replaced by an army of Elon fanboys and right-wingers who yell groomer and pedophile at every turn. We can only hope that sites like Blue Sky continue to scale up and welcome new users so that Twitter faces some competition, because there's not much incentive to provide content for a guy whose entire MO is trafficking in right-wing conspiracy theories. Now, Elon did quote tweet Tucker's post, writing, "On this platform, unlike the one-way street of broadcast, people are able to interact, critique, and refute whatever is said, and of course anything misleading will get community notes. I also want to be clear that we have not signed any deal of any kind whatsoever. Tucker is subject to the same rules and rewards of all content creators. Rewards mean subscriptions and advertising revenue share, coming soon, which is a function of how many people subscribe and the advertising views associated with the content. I hope that many others, particularly from the left, also choose to be content creators on this platform." So Elon claims that Tucker didn't sign any deal, which may be a verbal sleight of hand in that there may be a deal in place, just not yet signed. But either way, Elon traffics so deeply in disinformation that regardless of whether there was a deal, he likely wouldn't say. Now, as for this hope that the left would also create content on his platform, let me think about how I would like to put this. Fuck that. I am not that desperate for views that I would support a guy who has aligned himself with Tucker Carlson. I'm sure that there are plenty of fawning reply guys who Elon can convince to shell out all of their money so that he could stave his financial losses on his terrible investment of a website, but I can assure you, I won't be one. Now, Tucker, for his part, claims that Twitter is the last major platform that supports free speech, which would be shocking news to everything that Elon banned from Twitter that didn't suit his agenda, such as temporarily blocking Substack links because they introduced features that could compete with Twitter. His new algorithm also clearly favors the right, with the new For You page being littered with extremists pushing insane conspiracy theories. So again, it's not about free speech, it is about turning Twitter into a right-wing echo chamber. The free speech phrase is just their dog whistle for what's been their goal all along. And it's honestly really telling that the right wing has decided to coalesce around Tucker as their arbiter of truth, when this is how he really feels about the truth.
At some point, you have to call it what it is, which is lying.
Yep.
And lying with a very specific purpose, which is to avert your gaze, to pull your attention away from the things that matter. That's not news coverage, that's just kind of classic propaganda.
Exactly. Yep.
It's sort of scary if you think about it. And it's scary for a really simple reason. First of all, lying is always bad. It's always bad.
I mean, I lie. If I'm really cornered or something, I lie. I really try not to. I try never to lie on TV. I just don't, I don't like lying. I certainly do it, out of weakness or whatever.
It's poison. And it hurts the person who does it, and it harms the person who receives it. There's never a justification for it. There are excuses for it. I'm afraid of being exposed for who I really am. That's why people lie. But there's never a justification for it. It's never the right thing.
That's right. The so-called thought leader of the Republican Party is on camera openly admitting to lying. And while that's obviously a dismal picture of the times, it doesn't get more on brand for the Republican Party than that. Remember, this is the same guy who admitted over text that he despises Donald Trump. He says he can't wait until he's gone, and he called him a demonic force and a destroyer. Then he went on TV every night to praise Trump and push his agenda. It's the same guy who's currently alleged by former producer Abby Grossberg to have regularly used vulgar language to describe women and made anti-Semitic jokes. Grossberg's lawsuit includes a lot of bizarre details to back up her claims, such as staffers allegedly plastering oversized images of Nancy Pelosi in a bikini throughout the office. And I gotta say, it's not entirely surprising that the guy who publicly defends the 2024 presidential candidate who's just found liable for sexual abuse is himself a misogynistic asshole. So while Tucker alleges that his firing was some grand conspiracy to censor his free speech, it is abundantly obvious that he was becoming a financial liability for that network. Rupert Murdoch wasn't afraid of Tucker's speech. He platformed it for over half a decade. He was afraid of Tucker costing him more money, and that's what it's always been about. So Tucker and Elon may pretend that this is some groundbreaking move, but it's not. Twitter is a dying platform, and the fact that the biggest purveyor of hate and racism is now going to broadcast exclusively on that platform isn't going to help the website, it's only going to hasten its demise. And I am perfectly content to watch it burn. Before you go, I need your help. I'm right on the cusp of hitting 2 million subscribers, so please help me grow this channel so the progressive media ecosystem grows by hitting the subscribe button right here on the screen. I also started a Spanish channel so we can finally start regaining some of that lost ground among Spanish speakers, so if you want to help support those efforts, you can hit that subscribe button. And finally, if you listen to podcasts and you want to support mine, you'll find a link to that on the screen as well. Thanks so much for watching.